Commander Ethan Reeves stood at the observation deck of the Earth starship Defiant, his eyes fixed on the burning settlement below. New Montana had been a thriving colony just 12 hours ago. Now flames engulfed the main habitation dome while emergency shuttles darted through the smoke, desperately trying to save whoever remained. "Status report," Ethan said, his voice steady despite the rage building inside him. 712 survivors confirmed so far, sir, Lieutenant Olivia Clark replied. Her fingers moved quickly across the holographic display. "The Keldorian ships jumped out of the system as soon as our fleet arrived, just like all the other times." Ethan's hands tightened on the rail. This was the third human colony attacked in the past year. Each time, the Keldorian Empire claimed it was a misunderstanding or blamed it on rogue military commanders. Each time, Earth's government accepted their hollow apologies. "They targeted the schools and medical centers first," Olivia said quietly. "The planetary defense logs show it clearly. This wasn't a mistake." Ethan turned away from the viewport. "Download all sensor data. Every bit of evidence. No more relying on their word against ours." The rescue operation lasted 18 hours. Ethan worked alongside his crew, digging through rubble, carrying injured colonists to medical transports, and trying not to look too long at the smaller body bags. When they found Lisa Summers trapped under a collapsed communications tower, her diplomatic uniform covered in ash and blood, he almost didn't recognize her. "Commander Reeves?" Lisa coughed as the medic secured her to a stretcher. "I need to speak with you. Urgently." "You need medical attention first," Ethan replied. "No." Her hand gripped his arm with surprising strength. "This can't wait. They knew exactly what they were doing. I have proof." 24 hours later, aboard the Defiant heading back to Earth, Lisa sat across from Ethan in the ship's secure conference room. Her face was pale beneath the healing patches, but her eyes burned with determination. "I was in the middle of negotiations with the Keldorian trade delegation when the attack began," she explained, connecting her personal data device to the room's display system. "Standard diplomatic protocol means my recorder was running the entire time." The screen lit up with footage from her perspective. Tall, blue-skinned Keldorians sat across a table, their 4 eyes blinking in their species' unique pattern. One of them, wearing the silver collar of a high-ranking official, was speaking when his communication device chimed. He checked it, and Lisa's translator picked up his words. "Excellent. The cleansing has begun." They didn't know my translator was advanced enough to catch that, Lisa said, but there's more. She played more recordings, showing the Keldorians calmly continuing the trade meeting even as emergency alerts blared in the background. When Lisa had tried to leave to help with evacuations, they had physically blocked her exit. Only when Earth ships were detected entering the system did they release her, hurrying to their own shuttle while claiming they needed to investigate this unfortunate incident. "This wasn't an accident or a rogue commander," Lisa said. "This was planned at the highest levels, and I found this in their abandoned quarters." She placed a small crystal on the table. "It's a Keldorian military data store. Their encryption is good, but I worked in intelligence before becoming a diplomat." The display changed to show a star map with human colonies marked in red. 6 had X's through them, all colonies that had suffered accidents or pirate attacks over the past 15 years. "New Montana makes 7, Lisa said quietly. "They're systematically targeting our most successful outer colonies, keeping us contained." Ethan studied the map. "Why would the Galactic Council allow this? They're supposed to prevent exactly this kind of aggression." "I asked myself the same question," Lisa replied, bringing up more files. "So I dug deeper into the Keldorian data. Look at these manufacturing manifests. The technological gifts the Council arranged for us to receive over the past 30 years all contain the same unusual components. Surveillance devices," Ethan realized, recognizing the patterns from his military security training. "Every piece of advanced technology we've received has been monitoring us, reporting back to the Keldorians. They know our military capabilities, our research directions, everything. They've been making sure we never develop anything that might truly threaten their dominance." The ship's AI announced their approach to Earth's defense perimeter. Ethan stood, his decision already made. We take this directly to Admiral Bishop. No stopping at regular channels. Admiral Kate Bishop had dedicated her 40-year career to maintaining peace. The daughter of diplomats, she had always believed humanity's path to galactic respect came through restraint and negotiation. When Ethan and Lisa arrived unannounced at her private office in Earth Defense Headquarters, she was initially displeased. "Commander, this breach of protocol better be justified," she said sharply. 3 hours later, after reviewing all the evidence, Admiral Bishop sat in stunned silence. Around her office table sat the hastily assembled crisis team: Ethan and Lisa, Dr. Kevin Ward from Earth Intelligence, and Jack Monroe, a military engineer who had been forced into retirement years ago after his warnings about Keldorian technology were dismissed as paranoia. "Everything Jack tried to tell us 10 years ago was right," Bishop said, looking at the older man with regret in her eyes. "We called you paranoid." Jack's weathered face remained impassive. "What matters is what we do now, Admiral." Bishop walked to the window overlooking San Francisco Bay and the gleaming spires of rebuilt Earth. For generations, humanity had worked to overcome its violent past, to become worthy of joining the galactic community. They had endured restrictions no other species faced, limitations on colony numbers, military capabilities, even research directions, all in the name of proving they could be trusted. 7 colonies, she said softly. Thousands of lives, and we kept believing their lies because we wanted so badly to be accepted. She turned back to the room, her decision visible in her posture before she spoke. "Effective immediately, I'm invoking Emergency Protocol Theta 9. All information about New Montana becomes classified. Official story will be that we're conducting training exercises in response to increased pirate activity." Dr. Ward looked concerned. "Madam Admiral, Theta 9 requires approval from—" "I'll deal with the political fallout," Bishop interrupted. "Jack, I want you to quietly reactivate your old research team. Lisa, you'll work with Earth Intelligence to analyze every piece of Keldorian and Council technology on our planets." "And me?" Ethan asked. Bishop's eyes were hard as steel. "You're going to help me plan something no one will expect from humanity. A coordinated response. We've tried for over a century to show the galaxy we're not the violent species they fear. Now we'll show them what happens when you push humans too far." She looked at each person in the room. "This stays between us until I say otherwise. The Keldorians believe they know everything about us through their surveillance. Their greatest advantage is that they think they've already won." "And our advantage?" Lisa asked. For the first time that day, Admiral Bishop smiled. "That after watching us for so long, they still don't understand humanity at all." 6 months passed quietly. To the Keldorians watching from their hidden surveillance posts, humans seemed to be going about their normal business. Trade ships moved along established routes. Military exercises stayed within permitted zones. Diplomatic messages maintained their usual polite tone. Behind this carefully maintained facade, humanity prepared. Deep beneath the lunar surface, in abandoned mining tunnels converted to secret workshops, Jack Monroe worked with his old engineering team. Machines hummed day and night, building weapons and defense systems that had once been deemed too aggressive for a species trying to prove its peaceful intentions. "This targeting system is almost ready," Jack said, wiping sweat from his forehead, as he adjusted a complex array of sensors. "The Keldorians think their ships are invisible to our tracking when they use their phase shift technology. They're in for a surprise." Next to him, his former student Grace Lynn nodded. She had left a prestigious position at Mars University to join this secret project. "The quantum entanglement detector works perfectly in tests. Their ships will light up on our displays like beacons." Jack stepped back to admire their work. 6 years ago, they forced Earth Command to shut this research down. Called it unnecessarily provocative technology development. Now we know why. On Earth, Dr. Kevin Ward led a different kind of preparation. In a facility disguised as a weather monitoring station in the Rocky Mountains, he perfected a revolutionary communication system. "The beauty of it is simplicity," he explained to Admiral Bishop during her inspection. The Keldorians expect advanced encryption, complex security measures. Instead, we're using old-fashioned methods they'd never waste time monitoring. He showed her a system that looked deliberately outdated. Physical switches, wired connections, and analog backups. When they scan for quantum communications or neural networks, they find nothing because we're not using those technologies for critical messages anymore. Meanwhile, our ships and bases are communicating through methods so old they're new again. Admiral, Bishop nodded in approval. How soon can this be installed across all Earth Defense Forces? We've been doing it gradually for months, Kevin replied with a small smile. 20% of all communications already use this system. The Keldorians haven't noticed the change. On Mars Colony, the largest human settlement outside Earth, Governor Susan Hayes oversaw Operation Blackout. On paper, it was a massive infrastructure maintenance project. In reality, it was a cover for converting civilian vessels into battle-ready ships. Susan watched as ordinary transport ships entered carefully shielded hangars. When they emerged days later, they looked identical from the outside but carried hidden weapon systems and reinforced hulls. "Another 12 ships ready," reported Frank Ortiz, her chief of operations. "That's 67 total. The miners and transport pilots have completed basic defense training." Susan looked at the ordinary men and women, teachers, engineers, farmers, who now trained in combat simulators after their regular work shifts. Many had lost friends or family in the colony attacks. All had volunteered. "Do they understand what we're asking them to do?" Susan asked quietly. "These aren't soldiers." Frank's expression was grim. "They understand better than anyone. The Keldorians targeted civilians first in every attack. These people know exactly what we're fighting for." On the neutral space station, Concordia, positioned at the edge of human space, scientist Alan Rogers made a discovery that changed everything. Working undercover as part of a multi-species research team, he gained access to ancient Galactic Council records usually kept hidden from newer members like humans. "I need to speak with Earth Command immediately," he told Lisa Summers, who had been stationed on Concordia as part of the diplomatic corps, not through regular channels. In a soundproof room checked daily for listening devices, Alan showed Lisa what he had found. The Keldorians have done this before. 3 other species that grew too quickly, that showed too much potential, all suffered unfortunate setbacks that limited their expansion. He displayed historical records of flourishing civilizations, suddenly experiencing mysterious disasters, pirate attacks, or technological failures. All had eventually become subservient allies of the Keldorian Empire. The Viridians were poised to develop faster than light travel before humans even left their solar system, Alan explained. Then their research bases suffered a series of unexplained accidents. Now they're little more than a client state of the Keldorians. Lisa studied the patterns. "The Council allowed this to happen?" "The Council is part of it," Alan replied. "The Keldorians and their closest allies have controlled the Council for centuries. It's not a galactic democracy, it's a tool for maintaining their power." Lisa used Dr. Ward's secure communication system to send this information to Earth. 2 days later, she received new orders. Gather representatives from the smaller, marginalized species for secret talks. Commander Ethan Reeves, meanwhile, took the Defiant on what appeared to be routine patrol missions. In reality, he was mapping Keldorian military installations and defense systems across 3 sectors of space. Using short-range scouts and passive sensors that didn't trigger alarms, his crew built a detailed picture of their enemy's strengths and weaknesses. "They've concentrated their heaviest defenses here, here, and here," Ethan told his officers, pointing to key locations on the star map. "But they've left these approach vectors almost undefended. They're not expecting an attack from supposedly peaceful humans." Lieutenant Olivia Clark studied the tactical display. "Even with our secret preparations, we're outnumbered 10-1 in capital ships. Which is why we won't fight fair," Ethan replied. "We're not going to match them ship for ship. We're going to change the rules of the game." On Earth, Admiral Bishop met weekly with a small council of military and civilian leaders. President Nathan Carter, initially skeptical of the secret preparations, became their strongest advocate after seeing the evidence from Lisa and Alan. The annual Galactic Council Assembly is in 6 weeks, President Carter told the group during their final planning session. All major species will have representatives there. It's the perfect opportunity. Admiral Bishop nodded. Our fleets will be in position 2 days before. Every Keldorian military installation will be targeted simultaneously. And if they call our bluff? Asked Defense Minister Elena Diaz. It's not a bluff, Bishop replied. That's what they need to understand. Humanity tried playing by their rules for over a century. We extended friendship when we should have built shields. President Carter looked around the table at the men and women who carried the future of humanity on their shoulders. In 6 weeks, we show the galaxy what happens when humans finally say, enough. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council gleamed under soft blue lights. Representatives from 37 spacefaring civilizations gathered for the Centennial Assembly. Some species towered over others. Their bodies adapted to different gravities and atmospheres. Some communicated through gestures or color changes rather than sounds. Despite these differences, they all followed the same rules of galactic diplomacy, rules that had kept relative peace for centuries. At least that was the official story. President Nathan Carter led the human delegation into the hall. He wore a simple blue suit, Earth's traditional diplomatic color. Behind him walked 6 advisors, including Lisa Summers, still bearing faint scars from the New Montana attack. To casual observers, they looked like any normal human diplomatic team. No one would guess that inside their formal clothes, each wore a miniature version of Dr. Ward's secure communication device. The Keldorian delegation already occupied their prominent seats near the council leader's podium. High Commander Zurax, his blue skin decorated with the silver markings of his rank, nodded politely as the humans entered. His 4 eyes blinked in the pattern that humans had learned meant satisfaction. He thinks we're still blind and obedient, Nathan thought. Still the young species trying to prove we belong here. As tradition required, representatives greeted each other before the formal session began. Nathan circulated through the hall, exchanging pleasantries with various species. When he approached smaller delegations, the Viridians with their crystalline skin, the insect-like Nexari, the aquatic Morin who required special water-filled, environmental suits, he activated the hidden communication device with a subtle gesture. We need to speak privately after the public session, the message said, regarding Keldorian interference. Some showed surprise, others showed fear, but all nodded slightly in agreement. The council leader, an ancient Dovan with gray scales and ceremonial robes, called the assembly to order. We celebrate another 100 cycles of galactic peace and cooperation, the Dovan announced. As tradition dictates, each member may bring matters of importance before this gathered assembly. Various representatives spoke about trade agreements, boundary disputes, and scientific cooperation. The Keldorians proposed new security protocols that would further restrict military development for newer council members. A measure clearly aimed at humans, though not naming them directly. When it was Earth's turn, President Carter approached the central podium. This itself was unusual. Normally, junior members sent lower-ranking officials to speak. Earth requests special recognition to address the full council on an urgent matter, Carter said. The council leader looked surprised but nodded agreement. The assembly recognizes Earth's President Carter. Carter stood tall at the podium. Across the room, Lisa activated her secure communicator, sending a message to Admiral Bishop. We are beginning. All ships in position? The reply came seconds later. All fleets ready. Every Keldorian military installation is targeted. Awaiting your signal. At that same moment, human vessels throughout explored space received coded commands. Transport ships shed their civilian disguises, revealing weapon systems. Hidden defense platforms powered up. Earth's long secret fleet moved into attack positions. On Mars, Governor Susan Hayes addressed the Volunteer Defense Force. Today our patience ends and our stand begins. In lunar manufacturing facilities, Jack Monroe activated the targeting systems he had spent months perfecting, and aboard the Defiant, Commander Ethan Reeves watched his tactical display as hundreds of green dots, human ships, moved into position around key Keldorian strongholds. For 143 years, President Carter began, his voice steady, humanity has strived to be a responsible member of this galactic community. The hall was utterly silent. Even species that usually rustled or hummed fell quiet. Have accepted restrictions no other civilization has been asked to bear. We have watched our colonies burn while being told it was for the greater good. Carter pressed a control on the podium. A holographic display appeared above the assembly, showing detailed footage of the New Montana attack. The images were devastating. Keldorian, ships deliberately targeting schools and hospitals. The recording continued, showing the Keldorian official saying, "The cleansing has begun." This was not an isolated incident, Carter continued as the display changed to show evidence from 6 other attacks on human colonies over 15 years. High Commander Zurax rose from his seat, his skin darkening with anger. These are fabrications. The Keldorian Empire protests this slander. Carter ignored him. We have also discovered evidence that the technological gifts provided to Earth contained hidden surveillance systems, allowing constant monitoring of our development. The holographic display showed detailed schematics of the surveillance devices embedded in supposedly benevolent technology. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Furthermore, we have found historical records proving the Keldorian Empire has systematically suppressed other developing civilizations through similar methods. The display showed the records Alan Rogers had discovered, the Viridians, the Nexari, and others who had been sabotaged when they grew too quickly. Zurax shouted again, "This is outrageous! Council leader, silence this primitive species and their baseless accusations." The council leader looked uncertain, glancing between the human delegation and the powerful Keldorians. Carter's voice cut through the growing noise. Today humanity declares, enough. The simple word echoed in the Great Hall. We withdraw from all treaties signed under duress or deception. We reclaim our right to self-determination and defense. Zurax barked orders to his security team. Several large Keldorians moved toward the human delegation. Before they could reach Carter, Admiral Bishop's voice came through, not just on the human communicators, but on all communication channels in the hall. Attention all Keldorian military. Installations. Human defense forces have your facilities targeted. This is not a bluff. Stand down immediately. The holographic display changed to show real-time footage from across Keldorian space. Human ships surrounded their major military bases. The supposedly secret installations that no one should have been able to find, let alone target. Zurax froze, then tapped frantically at his own communication device. "Impossible," he muttered. "Our systems detect no such fleet." "Your surveillance. Systems have been fed false information for 6 months, Carter explained. You believed you knew everything about us, but you missed what makes humans truly dangerous, our capacity to learn from our mistakes." The council erupted into chaos. Some representatives shouted accusations, others demanded explanations. A few smaller species, those who had suffered under Keldorian manipulation for generations, watched in stunned silence. Carter raised his hands for quiet. Humanity does not want war. We want justice. We want equal treatment under galactic law. And we want security for our colonies and our future. He looked directly at High Commander Zurax. The choice is yours. Accept a new relationship based on mutual respect, or discover what happens when you corner a species that has spent its entire history learning to survive against the odds. Zurax's security team had paused, awaiting orders. The High Commander's 4 eyes blinked rapidly as he processed this stunning reversal. "You wouldn't dare attack Keldorian forces," he said, but his voice lacked its usual certainty. "The Council would never allow it. The Council has allowed your empire to manipulate and attack other species for centuries," Carter replied. "That ends today." He turned to address the entire assembly. "The evidence we've presented exposes a fundamental flaw in our galactic government. We invite all species who value true equality and security to join us in creating something better." Throughout the hall, the representatives of smaller civilizations began to nod. A new era of galactic politics had begun. For 30 tense minutes, the galaxy held its breath. In the Galactic Council chamber, representatives from 37 civilizations watched the confrontation between humans and Keldorians. Outside, across 3 sectors of space, human ships maintained their positions around Keldorian military bases. High Commander Zurax finally broke the silence. "This is a dangerous game, humans. Our empire has stood for 10,000 years. Your species has barely left its home system." President Carter didn't flinch. "And yet here we are." The council leader, seeing the balance of power shifting before his eyes, attempted to regain control. "Perhaps we should adjourn to discuss these serious allegations in private." "No," said Lisa Summers, stepping forward. "For too long decisions about our fate have happened behind closed doors. Everything will be discussed openly now." The massive view screens in the chamber suddenly changed to show a new image, a Keldorian battle fleet jumping into space near Earth. As predicted, Admiral Bishop's voice came through the communication system. "The Keldorians have activated their reserve fleet from the Proxima sector. They're attempting to attack Earth directly." Zurax's skin flushed a deeper blue, a sign of satisfaction in Keldorian body language. "You may have surprised us with your hidden fleet, humans, but you cannot match our full military strength. Stand down, and perhaps your homeworld will be spared." Carter remained calm. "Admiral Bishop, please show the council what happens when Keldorian weapons fire on human shields." On the view screen, the Keldorian ships launched their attack on Earth. Brilliant energy beams shot toward the planet, only to dissipate harmlessly against an invisible barrier. "Lieutenant," Olivia Clark's voice came next. "Maya Daniels's shield technology is working perfectly, Admiral. Keldorian weapons are ineffective." The council chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. The Keldorians were known for having the most powerful weapons in the galaxy. No defense system should have been able to stop them so completely. Zurax stumbled back into his seat, all 4 eyes wide with disbelief. "Impossible. Our intelligence said you were decades away from developing such technology." "Your intelligence was wrong," Carter replied simply. "We let you believe what you wanted to believe." On the view screen, the Keldorian ships fired again and again, with the same result. Their weapons, the same weapons that had destroyed 7 human colonies, could no longer harm Earth. A small, green-skinned representative from the Viridian civilization rose from her seat. "The Viridian people wish to speak." Her voice quavered slightly but grew stronger with each word. 500 years ago, our civilization was on the verge of a technological breakthrough that would have made us equals to the Keldorian Empire. Then our research stations suffered accidents. Our scientists died in transportation malfunctions. We suspected Keldorian involvement but had no proof. Another representative stood, one of the insect-like Nexari. The Nexari hive experienced similar setbacks when our expansion reached the borders of Keldorian space. We too were told it was for the greater good of galactic stability. Run. Representatives from smaller civilizations stood to share similar stories. The patterns were unmistakable. The Keldorian Empire had systematically kept potential rivals weak through sabotage, manipulation, and when necessary, direct attacks, disguised as accidents. At a lunar defense station, Jack Monroe watched the proceedings through a secure feed. "Look at that," he said to his team. "The whole rotten system is coming apart." Commander Ethan Reeves, aboard the Defiant, kept his focus on the tactical display. The Keldorian ships around Earth had stopped firing, seemingly confused about what to do next. Some began to retreat. "Status of all human colonies?" Ethan asked. "Shields holding at all locations," reported Lieutenant Clark. "No casualties." On Mars Colony, Governor Susan Hayes addressed her people. "For the first time since humans reached the stars, all our settlements are truly safe. Today marks the beginning of a new chapter for humanity." Back in the council chamber, President Carter spoke again. "We do not seek the destruction of the Keldorian Empire. We seek justice and equal treatment for all civilizations. The era of Keldorian dominance through deception and force is over." The council leader, seeing which way the tide was turning, tried to save face. "The council has always supported peaceful cooperation between The Council has been complicit in Keldorian oppression, Carter interrupted. That stops today as well. He turned to address the entire assembly. Humanity proposes the formation of a new interstellar alliance, one based on true equality, with safeguards to prevent any single species from controlling others. All civilizations, large or small, old or new, would have an equal voice. Many representatives nodded in agreement. Even some from species traditionally allied with the Keldorians seemed interested. Zurak stood again, his voice now less certain. The Keldorian Empire will never submit to human authority. We're not asking you to submit to us, Carter replied. We're asking you to join us as equals. It's a concept your empire might find unfamiliar, but I suggest you learn it quickly. Admiral Bishop's voice came through again. Mr. President, we're detecting unusual energy readings from the Keldorian homeworld. Our intelligence suggests they're preparing to activate the Sunbreaker. Lisa Summers gasped. The planet killer weapon, it's not just a rumor. Carter faced Zurax. Would you really destroy Earth rather than accept a galaxy where you aren't in control? The High Commander's skin darkened to almost black. The Keldorian Empire will not be dictated to by primitives who only yesterday learned to leave their own atmosphere. Then you leave us no choice, Carter said. He nodded to Lisa, who sent a new message through her secure communicator. The view screens changed to show a massive fleet emerging from hyperspace near the Keldorian homeworld. But these weren't human ships. They carried the markings of a dozen different civilizations. Allow me to introduce our allies, Carter said. While your attention was focused on Earth, representatives from the species you've oppressed for centuries were making their own plans. Ryan Nelson, Earth's military liaison to the allied races, appeared on screen. The combined fleet stands ready, Mr. President. The Keldorian planet killer device has been targeted by all ships. Zurax looked around the chamber, seeing his support evaporating. Even his own delegation appeared uncertain. High Commander, Carter said, his voice firm but not cruel. I'll ask you one last time. Will the Keldorian Empire join a new galactic order as equals? Or will you cling to power until you lose everything? The chamber fell silent, waiting for his answer. After what seemed like an eternity, Zurax's skin slowly returned to its normal blue. The Keldorian Empire, he began, then stopped. For perhaps the first time in his long life, he found himself without the upper hand. The Keldorian people request time to consider your proposal. It wasn't surrender, but it was enough. For now, Carter nodded. The weapon is deactivated first. Then we talk. Across the galaxy, on planets, ships, and stations, beings of all species watched in amazement. The day humans said enough would be remembered for generations to come. 3 weeks after what became known across the galaxy as the Declaration, a new kind of meeting took place on Earth. For the first time in galactic history, representatives from 22 civilizations gathered on humanity's homeworld. AO. Symbolic choice that would have been unthinkable before. The old United Nations headquarters in New York had been quickly refurbished for the occasion. Rooms were modified to accommodate different atmospheric needs, gravity requirements, and body types. The message was clear. Earth welcomed all as equals. Commander Ethan Reeves stood at the entrance, greeting delegates as they arrived. He had been asked to represent Earth's military at these talks, though he would have preferred to be overseeing the reconstruction of New Montana. Still, he understood the importance of this moment. Commander Reeves, called a familiar voice. Ethan turned to see Admiral Bishop approaching with President Carter. The Arcturan and Viridian representatives just arrived, Ethan reported. That makes 20 species present, with 2 more expected tomorrow. And the Keldorians? Carter asked. Their shuttle is scheduled to land in 1 hour, Ethan replied. A smaller delegation than expected. Just 3 representatives, led by someone named Krell. Not High Commander Zurax. Bishop nodded. Zurax has been removed from power. The Keldorian government is in the middle of major changes. The 3 weeks since the Declaration had transformed the galaxy. The Keldorian Empire, faced with the combined might of former victims and the exposure of centuries of manipulation, had been forced to stand down. Their planet-killer weapon had been dismantled under multi-species supervision. Their military had withdrawn from contested regions. Most surprisingly, their own people had risen up when the truth was revealed. Younger Keldorians, long uncomfortable with their empire's methods, had pushed for reform. The old leadership, including Zurax, had been removed from power. Inside the grand meeting hall, Lisa Summers organized the final preparations. Her diplomatic skills had proven invaluable during the chaos that followed the declaration. Now she was helping design a new framework for galactic cooperation, one that learned from the failures of the old council. The translation systems are working perfectly, Lisa told Ryan Nelson as he entered. All species will be able to understand each other directly, without Keldorian interpreters controlling the message. Ryan nodded. The combined fleet is maintaining its patrol of key regions. So far the transition has been smoother than we expected. Because everyone was waiting for this, Lisa said. The Keldorians weren't just oppressing humans. They were holding back dozens of civilizations. Once we took a stand, others found their courage too. The meeting began promptly at noon. President Carter welcomed the delegates to Earth, then opened the floor for discussion about the new interstellar concordat, the replacement for the old Galactic Council. The first principle must be equality, said the Viridian representative. No species can have greater voting power based on age, territory, or military strength. The second must be transparency, added the Nexari speaker. No more secret decisions affecting worlds without their knowledge. For hours, representatives offered ideas, debated details, and found surprising common ground. Species that had been manipulated into mistrusting each other discovered shared goals and values. When the Keldorian shuttle finally arrived, a hush fell over the assembly. The three blue-skinned delegates entered cautiously, clearly uncomfortable being surrounded by species they had once dominated. The lead Keldorian, Krell, was noticeably younger than the commanders humans had dealt with before. He approached the central podium and waited to be recognized. The assembly recognizes Krell of the Keldorian people, President Carter said formally. Krell's four eyes blinked in the Keldorian pattern of respect, not condescension. I bring a message from the Transitional Council of Keldor. We wish to participate in these talks as equals. The admission clearly pained him, but he continued. For 10,000 years, our civilization believed dominance was the only path to security. We were taught that other species would destroy us if we did not control them first. He looked around the room. Recent events have forced us to reconsider this belief. The Keldorian people request the opportunity to join your new alliance, under whatever restrictions you deem necessary to ensure we cannot threaten others. A murmur ran through the assembly. No one had expected such humility from the Keldorians. President, Carter responded carefully. The purpose of the interstellar concordat is to ensure no species needs to fear another. There will be safeguards to prevent any return to the old ways, but our goal is not to punish the Keldorian people for their government's actions. Later that evening, after the first day of talks concluded, Commander Ethan Reeves found himself face-to-face with Krell in a quiet corner of the building. I was raised to believe humans were dangerous because you were unpredictable, Krell said, his translator conveying the words in perfect English. Now I understand. What my people feared wasn't your unpredictability, but your resilience. When pushed beyond endurance, you don't break. You transform. Ethan studied the young Keldorian. Why did your people target our colonies? The truth. Krell's skin darkened slightly with what humans now recognized as shame. Your development velocity alarmed our leaders. In just 2 centuries, you went from primitive planetary travel to being on the verge of technologies that took us millennia to develop. The attacks were meant to slow you down, to keep you contained until we could be certain you wouldn't become a threat. And now? Ethan asked. Now we see that by trying to prevent a threat, we created exactly what we feared. Krell replied, a united humanity that found powerful allies and overcame our best defenses. 6 months later, the interstellar concordat was officially established. Its headquarters orbited a neutral star, with representatives from all member species serving in rotation to prevent any single group from dominating. In the rebuilt United Earth headquarters, a simple plaque was installed bearing the date of the declaration and the words that had become humanity's quiet mantra. Diplomatic when possible, formidable when necessary. As ships from a dozen species docked at Earth's orbital stations for the first truly equal trade summit in galactic history, Admiral Bishop stood with President Carter watching the arrivals. "You know they're all a little afraid of us now," she observed. Carter nodded. "Good. Fear kept us constrained for too long. But it's respect that will build this peace, and that's something humans have always been willing to earn." On New Montana, the colony rose again from the ashes. Commander Reeves had requested assignment there to oversee the rebuilding. As he watched new homes and schools being constructed, he thought about how far humanity had come. They had tried patience. They had tried diplomacy. They had tried playing by rules designed to keep them weak. And when none of that worked, they had shown the galaxy what humans could really do when pushed too far. Across the stars, the story of humanity's stand spread, a cautionary tale and an inspiration. The species that had been dismissed as too young, too fractious and too emotional had revealed an unexpected truth. Patience should never be mistaken for weakness, and when pushed too far, even the most diplomatic civilization has its breaking point. It was the day humanity said enough, and the galaxy would never forget it.